One. Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of First Person, sponsored by the Unity National Bank in Miami County with offices in Troy, Piqua, and Tip City. See what a difference a community bank can make in your life. Convenient offices, great people to deal with. You'll like the difference in the Unity National Bank. Check them out. Sponsors of First Person here on PressProsMagazine.com. One of the things that people ask me repeatedly is, how come you don't do more first-person interviews with officials? Being an old official myself, and this weekend we take care of that issue with Jon Derryberry here on my right and Steve Oren on my left. 40 years of experience in football and basketball, and Jon somewhere in the 35 years in West Central Ohio. You guys are well known. I've watched you for 60 years myself. So I know you
watched him.
I know you've been out there. I know you've been out there. Thank you for the time, fellas, for taking, to talk about the state of officiating in 2017. And first of all, you've been at this so long. Do you remember your own motivation, Steve, to get into officiating back then when you did it?
Absolutely. I got thrown out of an industrial league basketball game down in St. Henry in the Tri-County, and was sitting in the car, and the official come up and knocked on the window and asked me if I had a piece of paper and a pencil, and he'd give me the name of the person that would help me get my license. I said, no, I do not. He went to the car, got a piece of paper and pencil, brought it back to me, and that's how I got it.
You know what? That's a great answer. That's a great answer. How about you?
Not quite that dramatic, but those that know me or did know me, I was definitely a hothead when I played, and I was working down here across from the school, and my old high school coach, who had gotten into officiating, came across the street and says, Derryberry, you ought to take up officiating. And I'm like, no way, but here I am.
Well, and who's to complain now? Who's to complain now? Hey, my own experience, and a lot of people know that I did at least Columbus City League basketball for 5 years back in the day, and then 8 or 9 years of minor league baseball, AA, AA, and AAA. So I know a little bit about the motivation for officials and why they do it. It is a question that a lot of people say, why would you get into it, and why would you put up with all the hassle that you have to put up to be a good official? Talk about that a little bit.
It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of different people, you get your exercise, and it's just a blast. I enjoy it.
Jon?
A lot of the same, we work with the same people, have for several years. I sometimes wonder, if I haven't officiated for 35 plus years, how I would know people. I mean, I'll run into people and they'll say, or they'll see me at working. Oh, you do something beside officiate?
Yeah.
It's just what I've done. It's how I know people. I'll run into people that'll say, where are you at tonight? And I'll say so-and-so, and walk away, and this person said, where are they from? I don't know. Or who was that? I don't know who it was, but they're from Bluffton, or they're from Maria Stone, or I don't know their name, but I know what city they're from.
And by the way, do you have auto insurance? Yeah. Well, you're asking, because you're an insurance agent. One of the issues that I particularly concerned me is the fact of motivation of the young officials coming into the game. And I for years I had people who would call me and say, if I wanted to be an umpire, what's your suggestion? Should I go to school? Is it worth the time? Am I doing it for the right reasons? What do you think about the new people coming into the game today?
The new people coming into the game today, I am not sure they're doing it for the right reasons.
Because?
It's more of a self-gratification, I believe. Mm-hmm. It's not for me, never has been, but we see a lot of that today. It's like, I've done this 3 years, I should be doing the state tournament. And there are some that are probably doing that now. It didn't used to be that way, but it's just, what can they do for me rather than what can I do for you?
Yeah, and Steve, I want to ask you the question about just the fact of experience. He made a very good point. I've been doing this for 3 years. I should be doing the state tournament. I know better because in my years of officiating, when I get done, I wish I knew more. And I did it for a long time. Talk about that.
There's the more experience you have, the easier it is to talk to coaches and sometimes get yourself out of trouble than when you're a young official and you haven't gone through that or had the experience of having to talk to a coach about something that they aren't happy about. Sometimes it goes south in a big hurry. And by having more experience, you're able to talk to coaches better and maybe talk your way out of trouble.
I said in the intro, you've been doing this for 40, 45 years, based on whether it's football or basketball. Do you still see things that you never saw previous in a game?
Oh, the kids are much more athletic, you know, it just fascinates me. All the spin moves in football. You know, 10 years ago, nobody did that. Now, every kid, junior high kids are doing it. And the kids are so much more athletic. It's fascinating how great some of these kids are.
John, I want to ask you this. It has been my concern for years now that your generation of officials are passing on. And I know a lot of the guys, great guys in the Dayton area where we see every night, not so much up here, but I know that generation of officials, you can only do this so long. Are you concerned about the fact, as I am, that the next group that's coming in doesn't have the instinct for officiating because they may never have played football or may never have played baseball or basketball, and yet they want to be an official without the instinct of how the game is played, what plays look like, the anticipation for it? Is that a factor or at least a concern for you for coming officials?
I think it's somewhat of a concern. Yes, you do see a lot of them coming in that never played sports. I mean, if you played something competitively in high school, even though you can probably certainly have the aptitude to do another sport that but some of them I question if they've ever played any sport, quite frankly. I just and yeah, there is a there's a way to know what to look for, what to expect in an athletic competition.
Your response to that?
Well, I'm not sure, and I'm going to differ a little bit from him. I'm not sure you had to play a sport in high school to be a good official. I just think you have to be able to understand the game, what is a penalty, what isn't a penalty. I mean, if I've got a hold over here and the play's going over there, you're an idiot if you call this hold. And, you got to understand what you call and get the flow of the game going. And, life is good then, just let it flow along and you just stand out there and do nothing.
And Steve, that lends to my next question. I had somebody write to me because I wrote in a column recently about 8 procedure penalties in a football game, and this person wrote to me and said if there was 8 procedure penalties, the game has to be over officiated. Now, you made a good point about a holding call or a block in the back 50 yards away from the play. Do you feel like the game is over officiated?
I don't feel that the games that Steve and I officiate are over officiated.
That's self-gratification. That's all right too.
But yes.
But there is cause for concern.
I believe so, yes.
I believe that you have some people that think their job is to find penalties rather than just let the game flow.
I agree.
And I work a wing, so I'm on the sidelines. When you have a kid come out to line up as a wide receiver, I always tell them, I'm on the ball. I'm on the ball. And if he's back there 3 yards, I go, are you supposed to be off the ball or on the ball? And if he says on the ball, I tell him to move up and get up here with me. And that knocks out a lot of those little penalties that don't really mean anything.
Yeah. Final question, and this is something that will maybe surprise you guys, but I write about this all the time on Press Pros about the fact that kids are bigger, faster, the hits are more violent. This has nothing to do with officiating, by the way, but is there a concern with you as a veteran football official that there's coming to that point where there is more in terms of contact, and again to the fact of head injuries and the dangers of football as a violent sport than what the adolescent body can withstand?
No, I think the rules committee have made rules to make football safer the last couple of years. You know, if we continued like it was 20 years ago, with the kids being bigger and faster and more athletic, there was gonna be a lot of problems. But I think, you know, taking out the targeting rule and those type of rules hitting above the shoulders, I think it's making it safer for football players.
John?
This year's rule, you know, the blind side, that it's taken some getting used to, coaches, players, you know.
Officials?
Officials, you go to a coach, we called one the other week, freshman game, whatever, you walk over, I could tell the coach didn't agree with it, because he, you know, he's just, it was the head coach, was on the sideline, he's just kind of looking at me, just kind of, I said, hell of a hit in the old days, wasn't it? And he says, well, what was he supposed to? I said, I'd hit him like that. And that's why I tell people, high school sports, although we're seeing it a little more in college, I still don't know that we're seeing it much in the pros, but high school sports is safety. I mean, the rules are a lot more safety driven than they are in college and even pros. And you know, people will say that's such and such, now you're watching too much TV.
Yeah.
I mean, the high school rules are geared to safety, and most of the changes have been.
And what you guys have just done is make moms feel better about letting their kids play football. Huh?
I hope so.
No question about it. You guys have been great. Sat here to talk with Jon Derryberry and Steve Oren, veteran officials here in West Central Ohio, Ohio High School Athletic Association, football, basketball. This is the reason why, you know, it's a good thing to go out and have your kids participate, because these guys do the right job and do it the right way on Friday and Saturday nights. That wraps up this edition of Press Pros Magazine's First Person with Jon Derryberry and Steve Oren, again sponsored by the Unity National Bank with offices in Piqua, Troy, and Tip City. See the difference a community bank can make in your life. Until next time, thanks for your support of what we do on PressProsMagazine.com, and we'll see you again with another edition of First Person.